So, what does a past bowl and a coffee mug you could buy in the gift shop have in common? They're both pottery made out of clay. Around 4,000 years ago here in North America, people were starting to make pottery. That in fact marks a whole period of time called the Woodland period. And pottery was very important to store things, but we don't always find complete pieces like this one here. We often find fragments that are very small, even smaller than this one, but they still tell us the time period they were from and the materials they were made from and where they were from if we have that context. So then we know these are North Carolina pieces. This would have been a early woodland or about that 4,000, 3,000 year old mark. And you can see kind of the texture of it here. That's because it's not just clay. They use something called timber that would have been glue, so a different material. This one here used sand to make sure that the clay didn't break apart in the fire that you put in a fire pit. And of course, as time went on, they used different types of timber. This is a later woodland, so about the 500-year-old when the Europeans came around. And you could already see a difference with the white pieces. That's shale. And shale was very local here, and it was a very good timber. You had very nice pieces with the pottery. And you can see it on the inside is here as well. You can see the different colors. That's because they were heated at different temperatures. And this was a very detailed technique that was very valuable for each community. And how it was made at first, you had these clay pieces with the timber, you kind of mold them together. And you can even see here the individual lines on this piece. That's the individual coils that eventually wrapped around. You can even see it in the modern piece. Here, those little nice little coils inside. And then eventually you would have stamps, your own signature on the outside of them. So you can see this one here. This would have been cord marked. So you had a paddle, you would have wrapped cord around it and just make your own signature. Some of this was just fabric marked like this one here. And eventually you put these in these pits and you make sure the temperature is just right before you would take the pieces out. Sometimes this took a couple of days, and a lot of times your pieces did break, and we do find some of those pieces. But it was always a technique that you had to practice. And pottery and clay wasn't just used for bowls. You also may had pipes that were very important for relations with the Europeans. And of course, you had pipes before the Europeans, like this red clay here. Oftentimes, red clay is from this area. This white clay came from Europe. And if you find this within like a Native American site, that probably means there was either trade with the Europeans or contact with the Europeans. And of course, we don't always find pieces like this either. They're still in very, very small pieces of the pipe stem. And this is the stem here. But still, these techniques are still very important and are still used today to make things just like this coffee mug. And as a coffee drinker, that's very important.